We will call the meeting to order. May 25th, executive meeting of council. No regrets tonight. Everybody's here. It's nice to see everybody. Remember, there is always the invitation to stand and move. If anybody has to get up and move around, it's not a problem. Number 3, the agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda for anybody? Councillor Dignan.
Thank you, and having bringing this up, I looked over at Chantel and I said sorry because I was supposed to have it here, but I've got 3 district community grants asked. One from La Société Historique Acadienne de Pubnico West, president of the Pubnico and Area Garden Club, and La Société Historique Acadienne de Pubnico West, Les Femmes, and that of the association. So 3 different.
To add to this.
$500, yeah.
So what district are you, Councillor Dignan?
8.
8. Okay, makes sense why there's nothing there for District 8.
That's it.
Okay, we will add those on. Anybody else? Okay, seeing nothing, we will move on. Next, we have the adoption of minutes for May 11th. It was our regular budget council meeting. I'm assuming everybody's had a chance to look at the minutes. Any errors or omissions? Thank you. We don't even need to. It's just consensus. Okay, looks good. Okay, we will continue. I know, it's hard habits to break. Number 5 is department head report. We don't have a department head report tonight. Nope, okay. Number 6, 7-day notice. 6A, repeal Article C40 emergency fund. There is an attachment. We've already taken a look at this. This is just for the 7-day notice. Are there any issues with this? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on. Next, we have number 7 for decision. 7A, first reading, development agreement application for storage facility at 30 Spinney Road. There is an attachment. We had a PAC meeting yesterday where we discussed a development agreement that is they're looking to put in place. It's outlined there for you. There were no issues. We didn't see any issues yesterday. The meeting was actually very quick because there were no issues. There is a recommendation for us to move forward through council. If there are no questions or are there any questions or comments or concerns? Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Donaldson.
I'm neighboring property and I haven't heard any complaints. It's just being operated, it will be operated the way it always has been.
Okay. So seeing none, we need a motion to approve the recommendation of the PAC. The first reading. Okay, and seconded by Councillor Burke. Questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. Next, oh, sorry. Do you want to speak first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
Go ahead.
This is just a reminder to council and to ourselves that now that this has been approved for first reading, the WSP typically does the ad on our behalf. That's part of the contract. And we, as soon as we get that ad, send it to the paper. That's where you have a 14-day time where people are warned that the public hearing will occur at the meeting that would be further than 14 days. So we'll figure as soon as we get that ad, we put it out. That would mean probably the end of June, correct? At this point, executive meeting of June, yeah. So that is likely where the public hearing would occur. I just want to let you know on the process. On these things, we want to move fast because once they're approved and they should go to ad and people are out like this, these are developments, so they might be out money. There may be fiscal reasons why we want to move them quickly. So I just want to remind you that's the process that occurs. I don't know if we call it a public hearing on the end. Yeah, because it's a land use amendment we do. So thanks for clarifying that. But anyway, I just want to let you all know the process.
Thank you. Next, 7B, we have Congrès Mondial Quilt. there is a quilt, there's an attachment quilt that was made by Patchwork Pals, who is an organization in our municipality who often make quilts, and they will donate them to different organizations for fundraisers. But they've created this quilt for the Congrad that they would like to house, I'm assuming here. I think it's a no-brainer, really. So I'm sure you've seen the quilt. I'm sure you've seen the letter. Are there any questions or comments on that? Otherwise, I think we should make a motion to move that it's housed here. Counselor?
I'll make the motion that we house the quilt from Patchwork Pals.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Any questions on that? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. 7C, J-Class Road Agreement. J-Class Roads Agreement. So there's a resolution and the agreement. Whoops, I'm in the wrong one. So this is something that comes up every 3 years or so. We've done this before. It's the agreement that we have to sign. We have to make a resolution as well. There is a recommended resolution that's there. Are there any questions? Does anybody from staff have anything to add? No big,
Just that it's typical.
yes.
It's their agreement, and if we don't sign it, then we can't cost share.
Right.
So I probably would recommend that you do.
Try that again. Counselor Dignan.
Just one, do you need a motion?
We need a motion, and is this what we read, the resolution? So that the warden, and so Counselor Dignan is making the motion to move this resolution, that the warden and chief administrative officer be authorized to sign cost share agreement number 2023-003.
That's exactly the motion I was going
That
to.
I knew it. I was reading your mind.
You're right on. You're right
Do we have a
on.
seconder to that motion?
I'll say.
Okay, any questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Next, we have 7D, Article C22, Fees and Penalties. There's an attachment, and the 7-day notice. The email is there as well. The attachment has indicated a bunch of different fees and penalties that our municipality has charged in the past. However, there are some that you probably noticed are in red. They are new ones that have been added to this. It was things that we were doing already, but not charging for. So now these are new fees that are included in there. They've already really been approved because in the land use bylaw, but this is just to kind of formalize things. Are there any questions on that? Questions or comments? Councillor Surratt.
So move or is this a 7-day notice? So we don't, but it is appropriate to move it?
Yes.
Oh, we already got it.
It is appropriate to move.
So move.
Add 7 days.
Thank you.
Do we have a seconder on that? Seconded. Any questions or comments? Councillor Saunier?
I'm just wondering, is there any added cost or fees for the coastal protection?
I don't think we have anything at this time. We haven't really talked a whole lot about that yet.
The answer is no. There are no fees on coastal protection because the act hasn't been formalized or finalized. Once it happens, I suspect it's a good question to ask because there would be considerable costs associated with that we may bear. So that would have to come in, but we've heard nothing about the Coastal Protection Act when it will be, formalized in any way. And we know that there were issues and that's why they paused.
But it will happen.
I think something will happen. What it looks like, I don't know. It could be considerably different than what you've seen. I think that, I think it probably will happen. They have intentions of doing that, but what it looks like, I can't say.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. Next, we have 7E, Seal Island Lighthouse. There is an attachment for that one as well. So from my understanding reading this, is it a heritage property? That is a federal heritage building that is starting to show its age. So my understanding is that there is a group that's looking for a letter of support from us because they would like to work on some maintenance on the lighthouse. So they feel like a letter of support from us. So they're not asking for anything financial from us at this point, but would like a letter of support. Councillor D'Entremont?
Since I brought it up and you explained it nicely, I'd like to make a motion that we do write a letter of support to the federal government stating how important this preservation of this historical site, this federal heritage building is to the community, to the area. It's part of our heritage here in southwestern Nova Scotia, actually. So I think it's important that we write a letter stating all that stuff and then maybe some more stuff too. So thank you.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Digdon. Any other questions on that? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
For correspondence.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with a letter, I forgot.
Okay.
There's a letter.
Okay.
I need, it
Okay.
was too late to put it on the agenda.
Okay.
I put it on my desk.
Contrary minded, motion carried. We're at correspondence. The warden's gone to get a letter of correspondence. I'm not quite sure what it is, but we'll look at 8A, 12-month notice from NSFM. Any questions on that? This came in our memo. We started attaching them. Then there's the courthouse, 8B, there's the courthouse painting tender. So the tender is attached with the successful proponent, whatever it is that you call that. Any questions on that? This is, as we do, it's for your information. And then RCMP retroactive costs. Councillor Digdon?
Excuse me.
Sure.
Thank you. Just wondering, do we need a motion for the successful bidder for that tender?
Go ahead.
We do not, because it
Okay.
was budgeted and it's
Okay.
within the budget parameters, so you approved it through your budget discussion.
Yep.
Thanks for the question.
Thank you.
Councillor D'Entremont?
Just looking at the bids, quite a discrepancy between the
Yes.
two prices. Usually, I guess, in this type of frame of work, the bids are usually a little bit closer than that. But anyway, I guess I'm not a contractor. I'm just pointing it out. That's all.
Okay, and 8C is the RCMP retroactive costs. There is an attachment there as well. You want to speak on that one, CAO Muse? Go ahead.
Only that it's less about the letter and more about the discussions we've had with Justice. We had a meeting with the Department of Justice that some staff attended, many staff across Nova Scotia attended. They outlined, some of you were explained, how the cost of officer works, et cetera. And so those of you on the Joint Police Advisory Board would have understood, this is how the cost per officer is calculated, right? So that would have been part of that meeting. I won't repeat it here, only that it's going up. The other thing that we learned, that we know, is that we're on the provincial service agreement. So there is a municipal service agreement, and then there's also municipal police officers. So some municipalities have a municipal agreement with the RCMP, some have a provincial agreement, that's us, and some have their own cops, policemen, okay? And they have an agreement with whomever is delivering that service. It may or may not be the RCMP. So that being said, we have a contract that is a 70-30 split with, we pay 70% of the officer's costs and 30% is paid for by the province. The issue of retroactive pay has been raised and has been discussed on more than one occasion. And it is possible that the number that you have in your budget includes that retroactive pay. And it's also possible that it doesn't. And so what is happening is that the province of Nova Scotia is trying its best to determine what that number will be. And there's negotiation between the federal government and the provincial government. That negotiation will tell us whether or not we have an additional retro payment. So Barrington is expressing their displeasure with the fact that would be something that municipalities may pay for. I say may, because under the provincial services agreement, you may already be paying or have paid for that. So if you remember in your budget conversations, you remember I put in a number that was a just in case number. And if we had to pay something, it would have to come out of operating reserves. That is, of course, if we lost the fight against paying it. So I just wanted to let you know that the Department of Justice is aware of the situation and they are negotiating on our behalf and on theirs, because if they're successful, they save, but so do we, right? So that's the situation that we know for now.
Thank you. Counselor Sonia?
This is probably for a CAO. Do we have a breakdown as to what the costs are or what we're paying for? Like, are we paying for heating? Are we paying for the cruisers? And if we are, these cruisers, since Porta Pick, they come up, I believe, with a resolution to scrap all the cars. So are we paying for that? That's lost revenue, so to speak, and who's paying for that?
Right. So I don't recall that the cruiser is part of that calculation. I can't recollect. I do know that the primary cost would be twofold. One would be the officer. The officer might represent 100,000 out of a 220, 30,000 investment. So if you're paying 230,000 per officer, or a proportion of that, about 100 of that is the officer cost itself. There are other costs that are divided by the number of officers that you pay for. So for instance, if they had a central call dispatch, you might pay a proportion of that cost based on how many officers that you occupy compared to the total officers that are out there. There are costs like of that nature. I also know that there are other costs that could come in, like the additional costs of camera, the RCMP camera wearing device. That could correct. So that could be something that we see in the future. We haven't seen that yet, but there's pilot projects in Nova Scotia and we could be charged separately for that. We don't know exactly what that is at this time. That it is possible that the cruisers are buried in some of those administrative costs that I referred to you. So what I'll do is I can send that whole breakdown to all of councilors so that you can see the breakdown that the Department of Justice gave it to us. And there may be a cruiser cost in there that I'm not aware of, but that hopefully will answer your question. I just can't do that today.
Thank you.
Warden Muse?
On that same topic, I was asked the question, so do we pay per officer? And let's say we're supposed to have 7, let's say, I'm just going to use a figure here, and we only have 6, do we pay less? If 1 year or whatever that for some reason we don't have a full complement of officers, does our cost go down with that?
The answer is it depends. So in some cases it may, in some cases it may not. So in some cases where there's almost never a full complement of RCMP staff in any unit. So in our unit, in our detachment, we share with the municipality of Yarmouth, and we have 9 officers that we collectively pay for. Some of them we pay half, and some of them they pay like 70 or 60%. It depends on when that agreement came to pass, but it's all established. Keep in mind that the cost of officers $230,000. You would have to divide that by or multiply that by 70% to get your cost, and then you'd have to divide it by 2 to get Argyle's cost, because that officer is shared with the municipality of Yarmouth. So you can do the math in your head. I won't do it in my head because I'll be wrong for sure. So every year they factor in the calculations, they factor in vacancies. Sometimes what happens is there are vacancies, but then there are unexpected costs that offset those vacancies. And in some cases where we might have only 6 of 9, where there may be 2 that we borrowed somewhere else, we don't pay extra for that, nor would we pay any extra for overtime or anything else that would be required. So every year they establish a fee and a percentage, and that is influenced by the activity of that particular detachment. I can't tell you by how much because it's DOJ that does that calculation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that. Next, we have Warden Muse. You have something you wanted to add for correspondence? Go ahead.
Yes, it's a letter that I I just saw yesterday, and I found it was too late to put it on the agenda. And again, it's Department of Justice, and it has to do with the police, the advisory board. And they're looking for a member, the District of Argyle, the advisory board for the District of Yarmouth, District of Argyle. The minister has asked that I respond on his behalf. We are aware that the minister's appointed role for the police RCMP advisory board for District of Yarmouth, District of Argyle has been vacant since 2019. So we are currently accepting applications for the police advisory board for District of Yarmouth, Argyle vacancy, and plan to move forward to fill the role over the coming months. And they're wondering if we have anybody that we think, if we can suggest someone or find someone. I don't know if we advertise or
So
whatever.
community member.
It's a community member. Yes, because we have board members
Right.
here. So anyway, there's no community member, and it's been vacant since 2019 to cover that, and they would like to have it filled if they can. So I don't think we need a motion on this, but I think it's just something that we have to be aware of and find a way to let the public know that there is a position there that should be filled by someone. And it doesn't have to be Argyle, because it's Argyle and Yarmouth, right? Yarmouth, Argyle. Because that's the way I read it anyway. It's a one board, so. Okay,
Just a question clarification, is it the provincial rep that's been vacant since 2019?
it says we are currently accepting, District of Argyle, no, District of Argyle has been vacant since 2019. So it's not Yarmouth, Argyle. They're looking for someone from Argyle.
It's actually not accurate. We've had those filled since way back, so it's
From the
clearly
public?
there's a yes.
Okay,
So we would have had Peggy Boudreau and Pierre Muse and Daryl LeBlanc.
okay, so what we
So
should
they were
do
made
is
aware.
we should probably, because this comes from the Department of Justice.
Yeah.
They're not aware, so there should probably be a response to this.
Agreed.
And letting them know that we do have members, okay?
Yeah.
And since you let me have one, I just remembered I just got an email today. And this one here has to do with the Coastal Protection Act. And the email comes from the Ecology Action Center. Are you aware of what that is? Okay. And what they would like is they're contacting municipalities to see if they want to come on board as being kind of together. And their problem is that it's been postponed. They would like to see it implemented sooner. Because that was supposed to be in June, okay? It was supposed to be enforced before June, but it has been, they've postponed that. We don't know when it's going to come, and they're upset. This group is upset because they're very, very in favor of the act, right? And they would just want to know if our municipality wants to join forces with them, because the more people that send letters, but it would be to ask the government to please have this enacted as soon as possible. So I did not respond to it because I figured that it should probably come here.
Is
So-
that something we could maybe like put on the next agenda? Could we defer that and have a conversation about that? That way we could kind of all take a look
Yeah,
at
it's
that
too,
and-
it's too, and we have to know whether or not this is something. And another thing too is I did speak to someone because there was a message on my phone and I didn't quite understand what it is they wanted. So I called this morning and the person told me kind of what it was, but he said, we'll send you an email in order to explain exactly what it is we're looking for. I wasn't sure if it was somebody who was against the act or somebody who wanted the act. So I waited for the email, but one thing that I did tell this person, that being a municipality, I asked, what is this organization? Is it a government type. It's not. It's a nonprofit organization that they get together. It probably, if you think about it, it's like the Tuscot River,
Tree funds.
something, yeah, something like that, but more, not just for one river. It's provincial, right? So what I told him was I wasn't sure, as a municipality, sometimes we have to be careful who we join forces with, is what I told him. So I don't know if that was right to tell him that, but he sent me this anyway, and I said I would bring it to council.
Counselor Sonia?
Thank you. I've always been a little leery the Coastal Protection Act just by its name because they're not really protecting the coast, they're protecting it from our infrastructure, it seems to be. So the word is misleading. Anyhow, to cut to the chase, I guess, if the government is postponing, there must be a reason. So I'd like to know that reason before I jump to any conclusions. It's that simple for me.
Well, if I may, since
Mhm.
didn't we send a letter of our concerns on what that would be, how that would affect our municipality? We've already expressed, I think, what our concerns are. Am I correct in saying that?
To answer your question through the chair is yes, you were brought the issues that the Coastal Communities Act brought to you as a consultation. So they would have had consultations public, and you would have raised issues around availability of professionals who could because and that you're downloading a significant amount of work onto the building inspectors and some of our experts who are already overrun, who are already really having a hard time keeping up. So it's like it's fine to want to protect the coast, but how you're doing it is really not something that the municipalities are prepared to support in a significant way. We made that clear. We weren't the only ones that made that clear. Many municipalities made that clear. And then a What We Heard report came out from the province saying, this is what we heard. But what I didn't see is, what are we going to do about it report. So I just heard a delay. So
It's
for
a
me,
delay.
if you side with the Ecology Action Center, you could be seen as being on both sides of the issue
Exactly.
by saying, well, we have concerns, but hurry up. I think that I feel like there could be inconsistencies there. That's all.
And this is what my concern was, because if we don't know it, they've delayed it for a reason. They're looking at it, and until we know what the changes are going to be, I don't think it's wise for us to say, hurry up and do it. Like, enact this until we see what it is, whether we agree with it or not. Anyway, I think the response with this, I can respond to these people, but I don't, and through email, and tell them exactly that right now we've already expressed our concerns and we're waiting to see if there's any changes to it.
I just want to add to that we, Argyle, have the most low lands probably in any place in Nova Scotia. So therefore, it's going to affect us, I believe, more than any other municipality. So again, if they're postponing this, I want to know why before I. Thank you.
Counselor Surratt?
I'd just like to say no. Let's not touch over a 10-foot pole. Let's not jump on board, something like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Digdon? I was going to say Counselor Glenn.
Glenn works as well. Digdon, as they call me in Pumnigo, that's all right. Thank you. And I've been listening to this. I was also, when they were talking about the coastal action and that programs and all this, and I hear our CAO saying it's going to may download a lot more work on his staff than what he has staff for. And also, what Councillor Sonia said, it's also going to download a lot more expense on the people that may want to build in some of these places. It may be a beautiful piece of land and it may pass the building bylaws, but because you have this new coastal protection law in, And it may put a lot more added expense on the people that wants to build these homes or whatever the case may be. Because if you read through which I did, it talks about getting professionals in to look over the land and architects and engineers and all this. So you're putting a lot more possibly added expense on the people that want to build. And as we all know right now, to try and build is costly enough, not alone having to pay all those extra fees. And as far as the coastal, what you brought up, the ecology, I would say to stay clear of them for right now. Myself we don't know enough about what they're up to. We don't know enough about what may become provincially. So as far as I'm concerned, I'd like to see us set on its side of it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. So do we feel like consensus is to get the warden to just kind of say thank you, but at this point, we're not getting involved? Okay, all right.
I will do that.
Okay. Next, number 9, we have financial requests, district community grants. So for 9A District 1, the community grants, if somebody is willing to make the suggested motion to approve a district community grant in the amount of $500 for the following organizations: Théâtre Sud-Ouest and SAR New Horizons Seniors Club.
I will move.
Moved by Warden Muse, seconded by Councillor Bork. Questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. 9B for District 2, the suggested motion is to approve a district community grant in the amount of $500 for the following organizations: Como's Hill Cemetery, Como's Hill and Little River Harbor Beach Committee, Association des Clermont, De Villers, Fitzgerald, Harris, and Jacquard, and Harbor Hill Community Hall. Thank you. Questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. District 4, suggested motion to approve a district community grant in the amount of $500 for the following organizations: Parabas Seniors Club, Club des Aînés, and Festival de la Barche. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. District 5, to approve a district community grant in the amount of $500 for the following organizations: Comité Touristique L'Église Sainte-Anne, Le Club Acadien, Village Friends, Patchwork Pals, Eve Joe Burke Wharf Society.
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. District 6, to approve district community grant in the amount of $500 for the following organizations: Green Grove Cemetery Association, New Horizons Seaside Park Association, Argyle Mount Pleasant Cemetery, Lower Argyle Harbor Cemetery, and Glenwood Hall. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. And for District 7, community grant in the amount of $500 for the following organization: East Pubnico New Horizons Club. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. And in District 8, to approve district community grant in the amount of $500 for the following organizations. What were they again?
Let's just take starting at Canadian Public West. The Public Area Gardens Club and Les Amis de Musée. They've all been grants that have been approved in that before.
Okay.
I was going to work on that first. Thank you.
So moved by Councillor Digdon, seconded by Councillor Doshmo. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. Number 10, agenda topics for our next meeting or notice of motion by councillors. Okay, seeing none. Anything question period, Alex? Nope. No in camera, so we are adjourned. Thank you.